So now we open what it is our depths would have us hear, what it is our beloved would reveal to us. To the great mystery. Amen. If you are of a certain age and have been a member of a congregation, perhaps for a decade or 2 or 3, you may not know what I am about to reveal to you. Wait for it. It is this, the so-called spiritual but not religious demographic that makes up some 45% of this bioregion that we live in. Let's call them SBNRs, spiritual but not religious, for shorthand. They think that you, me, we are a bit lightweight when it comes to spiritual matters. Many of us think this because you worship a God as though God was a person with a capital P. They may think that it's rather sweet that you do this, that you actually believe there's a big daddy in the sky that's going to take care of your every need and calm your every fear. But your predilection for closing your eyes, talking to God, or singing devotional hymns to God, to them is rather like spiritual nursery school. The SBNRs also have a thing against belief-based religion. To put it simply, creeds are not credible to these folks. Many are certain that we in the church believe in God, but we rarely actually experience God. Therefore, in the absence of this kind of direct experience, we just kind of fearfully obey this tyrant God, this external God, this person out of fear and guilt. And the SBNR folks will point to passages in our Bible, especially the First Testament, that depict this personal God as jealous, wrathful, at times arbitrarily enacting acts of violence upon people. Jesus is okay for the SBNR, but Jesus needs to be a stripped-down Jesus, stripped of all this institutional baggage that we've put on him. I don't know if you knew that. On the other hand, mainline churches are fairly suspicious of all these SBNR types, especially the so-called New Thought or New Age spirituality folks. We secretly believe that they have elevated their egos to godlike status. In the absence of any God outside of them, they look inside to find God there, but some of us who belong to organized religion, to ask them, how do you know that all of this God within experience that you're having isn't simply a massive projection of your own ego onto God, sort of a narcissistic spirituality to go with a narcissistic age? And where is the the ethical muscle in your way of conceiving God? If God's just your deepest feelings, your deepest thoughts, your deepest sense of what's right and wrong, maybe it's just going to end up in some kind of flabby ethical commitment to you doing your thing and us doing our thing, and I don't judge you, you don't judge me. And then your thoughts, your feelings, your actions attain an almost sacred status. Many of us mainliners are suspicious that these folks are a bit flaky, a bit woo. And to add another layer to the mix, there are a whole bunch of people, call them the eco camp, who really don't get what all the fuss is about in any case. Nature is their religion. If you want to talk about spirit, then talk about the great web of interconnectedness. Talk about Gaia. Talk about our planetary system that nurtures and sustains us. Talk about the mystery of quantum physics, biology, cosmology. telescope in the night skies or through a microscope and see the workings of the cell. What's all this talk about an old man in the sky or this spirit within? God for them is this great cosmic system. Nature is their spirituality, and they don't get, they just can't understand for the life of them why anybody would choose to sit in a dark church on a Sunday morning like this when they could be out on a walk by the lake or by the ocean. Philosopher Ken Wilber has done humanity a great service at the dawn of the 21st century, calling for an end to these culture wars between these three ways of siloing off God. He says the first step is to recognize that each of these is a valid expression of spiritual intelligence. So stop pretending that yours is the only way to experience the holy. He calls them the three faces of God. God in the first person, or the great I am. God in the second person, or the great I, thou, the beloved other. And then God in the third person, the great I, it. And it's my contention that as we come to terms with our core purpose of teaching and practicing an evolutionary Christian spirituality, we're going to have to get comfortable with all three modes, all three faces of God. Because perhaps you can guess which one the United Church of Canada prefers, can you? Of these three kinds of three faces of God. Practically all of our hymns and all of our prayers and most of our sermons address God as second person in mainline denominations, as the great thou. We expect that God will be attentive and responsive to us. We are in relationship with this beloved other. And what I think is that the SBNRs are suspicious of this God mainly because we've not incorporated or applied an evolutionary model to the great I-thou relationship. And here's what I mean by that. When it comes to human relationships, say with our parents, we would naturally make the judgment that if we're relating to our parents at the age of 35 or 40, the way we related to them when we were 2 years old or 10, we probably need professional help. Right? When we were very young, right up through our late teens, we naturally needed our parents to do stuff for us. We're literally dependent on them for our lives at, say, the age of 2. They got to give us stuff. They got to take care of us. And as we mature, we naturally become less dependent. But one of the interesting things that happens is that in the second face of God, often what happens is that Christians don't really evolve in this relationship with God. So they get to be 35, 40, 50, 60, and they're still primarily saying, God, give me this. God, give me that. God, control my universe. God, this happened to me. Why did it happen? Why did you let this happen to me? One of the great things about maturing in terms of human development is that at a certain point in our lives, we realize that our parents have an identity separate and apart from our needs of them. It dawns on us, oh, they're distinct human beings with their own needs and wants that have nothing to do with mine. In the same kind of way, with the second person face of God, we can actually mature to a place where we are actually more interested in God's being. Who is this great beloved other? We want to be in relationship, and we move from a place of just asking for stuff from God to actually feeling ourselves as being loved and just wanting to devote ourselves to this great other, this beloved other. That's why Paul wrote to the community at Corinth. He says, when I was a child, I acted like a child. I thought like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things.